G'day everyone, and welcome to the premiere episode of Never Mind the Buzzducks, which is the new podcast, or rather the revamped podcast, the podcast formerly known as Finding Ireland Funny and now forever known as Never Mind the Buzzducks, as we have allowed a Discord group to choose the name for the joint podcast between myself, Mama Duck, your favourite Aussie BBW bawdy comedian of a certain age, and Mr. Owen Colgan, that blue-eyed Irish telly star, with our unfiltered chat that ranges over the life, universe and everything questions that need to be answered. Now, this week's episode, although our premiere episode under the new Never Mind the Buzzducks title, well, it's not exactly disjointed, but it is a bit weird and wonderful. It has been our habit over recording the last 15 or so episodes during a pandemic to be parked outside and observe the social distancing so as not to break any public health, responsibilities. And this week when we parked up, we found a fabulous location in the spectacular wilds of Mayo, looking at the magnificent Owen wind farm. But we attracted a bit of an audience as we sat there doing the podcast, with like a pedestrian slowed down to a crawl to observe our rego plates, and within short order the local neighbourhood watch arrived and basically gave us the third degree. No one expected the Irish Inquisition. But so we moved on and recorded another section of the podcast parked near a road further down, but it was all a bit twitchy, but we're a bit unsettled, and we decided to follow it up later in the week with a third section in which we answered the questions from our faithful listeners, both from Discord and YouTube. And there'll be more questions answered. If you've got any questions for Owen, particularly related to Hardy Bucks, there'll be more questions regarding their production and future answered in future episodes of this podcast. You can email us at findingirelandfunny@gmail.com, or you can just leave comments if in the YouTube comment section, if that's where you're listening it from, or you can contact us via Instagram, all that sort of bizzo. Anyway, having given you the preamble, thanks everyone again for tuning in. I'll see you when you got nothing on. This is Never Mind the Buzzducks with Owen Colgan and Mama Duck. G'day, Mr. Colgan.
How are you getting on today?
I'm getting on very well. It's amazing. It suddenly strikes me where we're sitting, the wind farm.
Yeah, blown away.
Blown away.
I was just thinking there the other day that the west of Ireland, if they can figure out the old wind energy and water energy,
The tidal energy, the power
tidal
of,
energy,
the power of the tides,
then they can really make a fortune, and we can live, grow our own veg, and have self-powered houses.
Absolutely. Yes, I would very much like to live off the grid. That's the thing about being, but that's the thing with like the new, all the planning permissions and things for new houses now. You're not allowed to have chimneys or things, so you can't burn turf, and you can't you've got to be on the grid. Do you know what I mean? Which is all very well if the switch is turned on and the government's being kind to you.
That's the thing, you see, because you're more traceable. But I can understand. Well, the turf thing is a funny one because I can understand that it doesn't really come back, but at the same time, isn't there the government company that's burning more like fuel than anyone else?
Yes.
What are they called again?
Boardnamona.
Exactly, yeah. So why are they still burning stuff, and why do they have such a big reserve of stuff?
Wow, exactly. Well, where we are is like the wind farm has replaced burning the turf. Thankfully, they hewed up all the turf, which is
Is it hard to put those? Like, is it hard to connect your energy to those things?
no.
How do you do it?
Well, there you go. I am not an engineer, and there's no way I can possibly explain now or possibly remember.
I thought you were going to tell me like they put a cable into the back of the house and then they run it up to
Well, it's basically it's a turbine, right? So it runs the power station the same way, like it's the same way the coal or the turf would run it. You know what I mean?
Do you reckon if you kept building those wind turbines, that there'd be no wind in certain parts of the world? Because all the wind would be with the turbines.
No, I don't think the wind would stop. I don't think that they're not actually wind breaks. Do you know what I mean?
The wind never.
They're harvesting the wind. You won't run out of wind.
So you can't run out of wind.
No, not. You can divert wind, but you can't like the wind.
If that's the case, then everything in life should be powered by wind. Cars, your phone, lawnmower engines, powered by wind. Your television.
Well, they are, but there's a middleman, which is
Jeff Bezos.
the generators. Like the turbines that generate the electricity, and then it's and then the electricity comes to your house, and you can have you not seen people with those electric lawnmowers on a cord on the little neat pocket?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Pocket lawns. Yes. Well, there you go.
So
I don't feel so bad now when I use like my clothes dryer or anything now, because I know that at least all my electricity, I'm with the electricity firm that's like 100% renewable, so I don't feel so bad. Whereas in Australia, if you run the clothes dryer for an hour, you're thinking about all the bloody coal that they're burning. It's not worth it.
The Australians like a bit of coal, do they?
Oh, the Australian government likes the donations from the coal companies, but no one in Australia actually likes coal.
Why, is there a lot of mines there?
There are. And loads and loads of coal, but the policy is no new coal. At least it was no new coal, so that they don't open up any new ones. But the Conservative government in Australia is so corrupt that it took bribes from an Indian company called Adani several years ago, and have already sort of exchanged all the brown envelopes. And despite Adani not being able to get financed by any Australian bank or environmental approval or whatever, the government are trying to open a huge open-cut coal mine that will just completely destroy the barrier reef and leave a huge hole in the ground, just because of donations, basically, just because of crony capitalism. Gina Reinhardt is a mining magnate in Australia, and she controls the Liberal Party along with Rupert Murdoch, and they're just beyond evil, which is why I like sitting in the EU looking at wind turbines, knowing that my imprint on the earth is a little bit less because I don't live in Australia. There you go.
That's a deep one.
It was a deep one, wasn't it?
I think, though, that every country is responsible in it. Like, I suppose every person is responsible for what they do to the environment, aren't they?
Oh, yes. It's all personal responsibility, I mean, it comes down to, where we spit out our chewing gum to like whether we bother to recycle, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm certainly no Pearl Pure Heart. Often do I sort my recyclables? Not always, depending on how yucky they are.
Do you know what I started doing in the house there? What's the word? I suppose it's recycling, but it's like composting. You put in the soil.
Oh, yes.
And then you put in the peels of vegetables and stuff like that, and a bit of cardboard.
Yep.
And you chop it in.
Are you going to get like a worm farm?
I was looking into that, and it said that if you find loads of leaves in a field and you dig underneath it, apparently there's loads of worms. Yep. And I went looking one morning for them. I got up at 8, which was a big day for me.
Oh, that was too late because the early birds had already been.
Exactly, and that's the most point when that's saying the early bird gets the worm.
Exactly.
It stuck in my head so much, but ended up getting a few worms in it throughout the week. Threw them into the bin, And then you know what? I came back then a few days later, and it was all kind of broken down, and it was down to like I think it's called hummus.
Castings.
Castings, Christ.
Worm castings.
It's also called hummus, but not with the two M's. It's like one M or something.
Yeah, kind of humus.
Humus, yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to throw that into maybe if I'm trying to grow maybe a couple of carrots or something, or potatoes, or try to grow some herbs again. I was trying to grow some basil, coriander, parsley, and one other thing I can never remember the name of it. But the only thing that grew was the parsley, the worst of all the herbs, because there's no taste to it.
Parsley's the best because it's like
No.
good for like garlic breath and.
But you need the
And
garlic
it's
in
got
the
lots
first
of
place.
vitamin C in it.
It just
And
doesn't cut the cheese when you put it into a salad.
Parsley sauce on corned beef.
Now you're talking.
See, there you go. And mint is reasonably easy. Mint
will grow nearly anywhere, won't it?
Yeah,
In the
you
rivers.
just got to keep it wet. So you just have to keep it outside in Ireland, basically.
Except for my father, we used to go for walks when I was younger, and we'd be walking close to the river sometimes. And it always felt like back in them days, the summers were much longer and it was much sunnier. But we'd often be walking down along the banks of the river, and then the old lad would pull up like a flower, or like he wouldn't give me a flower, but he'd pull up a fucking plant.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, there, you can eat that. And I'd be eating like these random plants. And most of the time they were nice. There was a couple of times where I think they were a bit dodgy.
I've got a book at home called Free Food, and it's all the hedgerow food that you can sort of like forage for in Mayo.
Wow. Do you reckon you could live off foraging in Mayo?
Probably could, like, because you can eat dandelions, and there's dandelions everywhere. Like you'd get it, like you'd be vegetarian, but I mean, if you could trap a rabbit
diet, though. I mean, if you're eating flies and minks.
Oh, see,
fish. A fish would be nice.
My father-in-law says he had it tough because they had no money when he was a kid on the farm, and so he got sick of eating hare, salmon, and oysters. It's like, have you seen where I come from, mate? Do you see what Australians have to scrabble on? He got sick of eating hare and salmon and oysters.
So he didn't really.
Because that's living off the land at the edge of Mayo, yeah.
So
all the fish, and the black shells, and
all the herbs,
like his grandmother did all the dyeing of the sheets with the bog plants and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing stuff.
My Ola gave me some herb there the other day. It tastes a bit like sambuca. I forget the name of it.
So it tasted like aniseed. So it was probably there's an anise basil like that. There's a Greek basil that tastes like that.
Something like that, anyways. But he gave me a whole head of it.
Okay.
And he goes, "Here, take that, eat that."
Fennel.
Fennel. That's the one.
I was like, I wanted to grow fennel properly. You can't buy fennel bulbs to eat. I was going to have a little cafe and do fennel. Have a little garden cafe.
Oh, you should do, definitely. Because the owl came into the kitchen with a handful of fennel and said, "Eat that." And I ate it, and I was like, "That is lovely." Yeah. Just after my dinner, and then he gave me an even bigger bag of it, and I've been eating it ever since.
Oh yeah, do you eat it raw? Have you cooked it?
Raw.
So it's lovely, like grated up in salads raw, or if you bake it in the oven, but like with grated cheese on it, and it is amazing. Wow.
That's a fucking new level. The cheese always adds an extra element.
Yeah, but it's like a Greek thing. So yeah, the fennel with the grated cheese. Yeah. Mm.
I wonder who was the first lad to say, "Let's make some cheese." Like, what was he doing?
Why did he hang on to the milk for that fucking long?
Yeah, what was he thinking that he said, well, you know what, actually, if I just kind of like wait for this bit to get to the top or whatever, and then I cream it off. What was he playing at?
It's a good question. Well, they probably just noticed, I suppose, that it happened accidentally, I suppose. They noticed that cream had separated and the curds and whey, and then they started eating what was left behind and then playing with it, and then noticing that one bit kept a bit longer, I suppose, for it was harder to keep things.
I suppose it's all about curiosity, isn't it?
I guess it is.
When you're trying new foods and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, food is an art and a science. It's one of those things where everything overlaps. because they're literally chemistry. Like you take one ingredient and add it to another, and a chemical change happens, and it becomes another entity because of the reaction. You know.
Right. So what the art side would be the experimental side, and then the other side would be the scientific side, would it?
Well, I suppose the art side sort of comes from having like that instinct of sort of like what taste would complement another taste, and then making it presentable at the end, and sort of
But
thing.
what's the end? Because it seems like they're still evolving stuff like the potato. They're always adding new elements, and I love it. Hash browns.
Hash browns, are they new to you? Are they a new thing in Ireland?
No, but they're not new, but like they seem like the latest incomer. But also the Cornish pasty to sometimes be filled with potatoes.
Ah, yes.
And that's a nice little curveball.
Yeah, we have pasties in Australia, and they're traditionally sort of like potato and carrot.
Oh, I've had them.
Potato and carrot and sort of like turnip. But I don't find them very. There's not very many sort of like hot baked goods over here, because I love the old meat pie, and sauce. You don't get them over here.
Bit gravy.
Oh, so that's actually someone suggested they want me to get you to eat a pie floater. So I thought we should
eat a pie floater.
A pie floater. Do you know what a pie floater is?
Sounds like a turd.
Why would I want you to eat that, Colgan?
Well, we live in a very strange world. Kanye West is going to be running for president, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
A pie floater is a pie that is in a bowl of mushy peas, and it's amazing.
Mm. Postman Pat.
And it's black
that sounds
and white
good.
Cat.
Yeah,
so,
sounds tasty.
So we should stream we should do live kitchen stream shortly, I reckon. And I'll do a pie floater for you, and then you can eat it.
That would be good. I go through phases of being able to, or being motivated to cook stuff, and then other times I get very lazy and I just have a bit of cheese and bread.
Well, a pie floater is pretty easy because you can buy. I mean, it can be as fussy or as not as you want it. You can just like buy a pie, heat it in the microwave, and stick it in like a warmed up mushy peas out of the tin, or you can actually, grow your garden peas, mash them with a bit of cream and a bit of fresh mint and a teaspoon of sugar, and make them amazing. Present them like that. It's all up to you, the difference with food.
That's very true. And if you had one of those, what are they called? Porta tunnels? Because the way...
Polytunnels.
Polytunnels, sorry.
Yeah.
You know the way, like in the west of Ireland, the weather, it's a lot of rain these days.
Yes.
And a lot of wind as well. But if you have those polytunnels, you can grow a lot of different things.
You can.
I must start doing that now myself.
I have a polytunnel, and it is wildly neglected, although it has recently been sprayed to reclaim it from blackberries.
Mm.
And then so I can do something useful in it.
I see they're a bit of work though, are they?
Well, they are if you don't keep an eye on them. And I've been I keep deciding that we're going to move, and I think there's no point doing that because we're going to move in a couple of months, and then we change our mind, and then it ends up we're still in the same spot, but even further behind than when we started, if you know what I mean.
I gotcha. That's what life sometimes feels like.
It's just like, we're going to do that, and then,
Yeah.
And particularly this year, I was going to do something, and then, I was going to do a lot of things, as we all were, and then COVID struck. And it's like...
Stopped everybody in their tracks.
Stopped everyone in their tracks. Speaking of being stopped in their tracks, guess what I spent yesterday doing?
Looking at train tracks.
No. I spent the day with my Great Dane bitch who had 10 puppies.
That's enough way to talk about convenience.
They used to be before they used the word bitch, they used to use the word slut. And so, so like in the kennel club, there's like some of the older trophies from the Victorian era would be like, slut of the year. And
so who hijacked who in that word sense?
Well, it just became, and then it became to be used about, a dirty or immoral woman, and it applied. So then it just seemed. So then they turned it to, and then it became bitch, and then people started referring to women. I guess it goes to show that no matter what insult you come up with, it will eventually be applied to women in a misogynistic society. Eventually,
it's a deep one because it's like they keep changing the meaning of words, and then you're saying something, and you're like, oh, I thought that meant something else, and then it's just kind of, sometimes it gets confusing, and I don't know, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what to be able to say.
It is. And I'm like, I'm no longer with the cool kids. So I've no idea, so I often say things out of context. I suppose it's like when I went to Paris about 4 years ago, and I was making my way around Paris, and I was making myself understood, but it suddenly occurred to me that the last time I'd actually used French was in high school, and it was a quarter of a century before, and I thought it would be the equivalent of me lobbing up to Ireland and saying, excuse me, old chap, do you have a penny farthing for hire? Do you know what I mean? I must have my French must have been so outdated in what the current words
you would have been like
come
this.
in.
Je m'appelle Denise. Je habite Ireland. You would have said the basic stuff like everybody knows. Nobody in Ireland knows French.
I mostly say, excusez-moi, monsieur, je regrette mon français n'est pas très bien. Je suis l'Australien.
Do you know what? I want something about French that's very embarrassing for me when I think about it.
Yeah.
I used to think it was cool to say, voulez-vous
coucher avec moi ce soir? I've said it. It works.
Was that French or Spanish?
It's French.
But, sorry, I interrupted your story there.
No, I finished.
Oh, fair enough. Sorry for talking so.
There you go. That was a long, comfortable pause. Almost Pulp Fiction-like, I would say.
It's almost like the dimension of life changed and now we're in a different simulation, and it's almost like those turbines in front of us are the
alternative turbines. There was a bit of a paradigm shift there. I felt it too.
They're the antennas of Earth.
The antennas of Earth. Do you think the Teletubbies were getting us ready for the old turbines? And they're a bit hypnotic, aren't they, when you just sit here and look at them?
To be honest, I think I just about gave up children's television when Teletubbies came out. And I remember looking back and someone was like, oh, you have to watch this show, the Teletubbies. And I seen a few clips and I was like, that just looks shite. It looks terrible. These fucking Teletubbies that are behind a mountain. And then they live in the mountain. What did they do the weekends in? Is there anything naughty about them? Even though that sounds... it sounds weird, but I don't know what the fuck. It was just too daft.
Teletubbies, they were an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the lockdown, I did a live stream of stand-up with some lovely English comedians from a comedy club in the south of England, and one of them was a former Teletubby.
A bit higher drink, yeah. Okay.
And we will pause our recording, I guess. And we're back.
We just got moved, so that's why there was a bit of a break in energy there.
We got moved on for loitering with intent, basically.
Well, the thing is, those windmills that we're looking at, the turbines,
yes,
they belong to the government, I suppose, do they?
They are a joint deal between Broadband and ESB.
It's a bit like Area 51 in America. It's not as strict, but it's kind of like it.
Oh, it's Roswell, basically.
Huh?
Yes, you're quite right. We nearly infiltrated the high-level government scheme there.
Mm.
They could have been putting together the 5G towers behind those windmills.
I heard that Indy Kenny's in there. And he's making super 5G towers that are connected to the G-spot in your arse.
We can buy very specific toys for the G-spot in your arse.
Yeah, but how come we can't get good Wi-Fi in Mayo?
I don't know. WhatsApp's a problem.
WhatsApp, yeah, but this is going to sound like an endorsement now, but it's not. Westnet are fairly good.
Are they?
Yeah, I got them in there the other day, and some lad came out. I think it's fibre cables they use.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, I've got fibre to the home where I am.
No worries.
Mayo. But I'm quite close to an airport, so I guess that probably helped me.
Good old knock.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the connection's fairly good with those.
Yeah. No, I'm just another reason that I'm grateful I live in Ireland and not Australia. Australia's broadband is some places are slower than dial-up. It's just appalling.
Wow.
Conservative government, like, literally sabotage it on purpose to give
I would have thought the Australian internet would have been very fast.
Well, it should be. It was on track to be, and then they elected a Conservative government, and they literally put the kibosh on it. To keep people like ignorant. So they just wasted it. Like, instead of fibre, they're using copper.
Mm.
Can you believe it? Copper. It's like 19th century technology.
Why are they using copper?
I'm assuming donations. Again.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you now.
Yeah.
But dial-up back in the day was shocking bad. In the 90s, first time I ever got on a computer was, I think, when I was maybe 14. And it was very, very bad. It was just like a picture. And it took about 20 minutes to load up the full picture.
Yes.
And then you had to go into the next page. And it was pretty much it was like teletext on steroids. Still wasn't that good. But you could kind of get what they were getting at. And now you see it, and it's just... You can type in any word into Google, and you will get any result.
Yes. And if
anything.
Well, you see, and if because our smart devices are listening to us,
mm-hmm.
If I said, Purple Monkey dishwasher now, and then went to Google on my phone and put in PU, it's going to come up as Purple Monkey dishwasher, predicting that that's what I'm looking for because I've just been talking about it with you.
There you go, yeah.
It's very like Minority Report with Philip K. Dick. Have you seen that?
No.
No, it's like a futuristic dystopia thing, and it's about basically the governments they think they can predict the future, so they will arrest you for the crime they think you're going to commit.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But basically it's
thought crime. It's like a thought crime, no?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sort of. It's 1984-ish. So the same like everything's, and it's where we are now with like facial recognition technology and constant surveillance on CCTV from every angle and that sort of thing. So like our hero, which is played by Tom Cruise, of course, is trying to get away and he's running through a department store, and the department store's like surveillance system recognises him by facial recognition. Goes, how did you find those slacks, Mr. Anderton? From like his purchase last week, and which is where we are at now, because like it was like 10 years ago I was on Facebook and I went to post a picture and it said, do you want to tag Mr. X in this? And it was like, how does Facebook know that's Mr. X?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're recognising our faces.
But
everyone went, oh, that's handy, and just played along.
Is it all part of the fact that we're recording it into a phone?
Well, exactly, and into a Chinese spyware phone. Every time I record beautiful scenery on Mayo, I think I'm like mapping for fucking, Xi Jinping.
That sounds a bit dodgy now, so it does.
Yeah.
And you don't think that the Americans like Zuckerberg hoard information that you put up on Facebook?
He absolutely does. Zuckerberg is beyond evil. He just takes no responsibility whatsoever for anything that's out there now. And he's just selling our data left, right, and centre to extraordinarily dodgy blokes. And it doesn't matter if they pay him in rubles. Money's all green to Zuckerberg.
Who do you reckon Zuckerberg is selling the information to?
Anyone that will pay him.
But what kind of people are they? Are they the boys in banks, or where are they?
Well, there'd be banks. There'd be just ordinary businesses that want to cater to your targeted needs, given what they decide is your demographic. It's like
Jeff Bezos being there.
Oh, Jeff Bezos is definitely in there. It's all It's like about 11 years ago, I decided to get engaged. As soon as I made the announcement on Facebook, then all the internet ads were for wedding dresses and diet plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, how the fuck do they know? And then I realised that it was because I made the announcement on Facebook. And then a couple of years later, I realised it was because I was talking in front of smart devices. But before that, it was just, the algorithms. I mentioned things, they're looking for keywords and they're targeting the ads.
But their argument is that they're making your life more streamlined because they're showing you the adverts you want to see and showing you the products that they think you might like and the people that you might like and all the other stuff. But then it becomes a bit
invasive.
Maybe insular.
And, well, yeah. Invasive and insular, you're quite right. Because you just think... Besides, and I'm perverse, I suppose, in that I really do resent the assumptions. I don't like being spoon-fed, and I'm particularly annoyed when I'm being, like, shown weight loss plans when I haven't actually objected to my size. I've just mentioned that I'm big, so I get weight loss plans and gym memberships and, like, all those, lose weight with this shake, go on this diet plan. So I get those ads all the time, and I'm happy with the way I am. I just talk about, like, being overweight because I have lipedema. So all the ads that I get tell me I should be different.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole point of those ads is that they figure out who everybody is, and then they'll say, we all have our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses.
Yeah.
So they'll aim things at your vulnerabilities so that you'll feel like, oh, actually, I need that to be happy.
I know, but that's the thing. It's like, well, like, sometimes you think, well, I thought I was okay, but now my computer is telling me I'm fat. Do you know what I mean?
There you go, but that's because...
It's like, I didn't know I wanted it until my computer told me I wanted it.
That's because we're going to the internet for our answers, but really it's in Mother Nature, no?
Well, it is. Well, it's like, it's the same thing with, like, no one's born racist. No one is born, like, hating their body either. It's like the way other people treat you. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's like, whether you're not born able-bodied or whether you're, what colour your skin is or what size you are or whatever, it's how people react to you that you, sort of like shapes your self-worth unless you have a very solid foundation for your ego. Don't you think? So is ego the same as self-esteem?
I think the ego is probably the negative side of self-esteem.
I think so.
Because it's good to have self-esteem. Like, it's good to believe in yourself, because if you believe in yourself, you're showing love to yourself. But maybe sometimes if you engage the ego, you become competitive in the way that, like, you'll see somebody doing something and you'll say to yourself, how come them fuckers are doing that now? Fuck them. As opposed to just kind of accepting it and saying, compassionately saying, fair play to them, they're doing brilliant. They deserve everything they're getting. And I should be, sort of inspired by that. I think sometimes the ego will make you see the negative in something.
Okay.
For me, anyway.
Okay, because I was looking up the ego and it said,
Oi, oi.
Oi, oi.
How you doing on the ego?
I looked him up. He never rang back. He said he would.
Ego's a busy boy.
Story of my fucking life, innit? Anyway, ego is basically, as I understood it, it's like your perception of self. It's everything that has shaped us up to now and how we perceive ourselves as separate to the rest of the world, in relation to the rest of the world. So what you're saying is there, when you're saying, like, fuck up, he's better than me, is because our ego can't handle a shift in our perception of how we see ourselves compared to other people. Is that what you're saying?
I think we're too caught up in competition, and people think we need to have competition so the standards go up. And I think though that the competition can, even though, and I could be talking shy here now because I don't really know, but the way, like, in cities, everyone's kind of rushing and we're all trying to get money and we're all trying to keep going because there's all these new builds coming in, so you got to fucking keep the fitness going, and then also you got to be, keeping sharp because everyone else is busy. But I completely forgot my point.
Ego.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, so the ego. The ego drives all that, I think, because it's like, if that guy's doing that, then I can do this. And if he, whether as opposed to maybe working compassionately together, if that even works.
I think, well...
It's like, why are we always fighting? There's always fights going on. And it's between every sort of group. Like, religions, the closest religions together fight. Different genders are fighting now. There's just such an array of people arguing, and it seems very divisive, and
wow.
I don't know what's happening there with that.
Because the ego is I, isn't it? And there's no I in TEAM, to use an old truism. So, I know, but that's the thing, is like identity politics. If your ego is the I am, and you've determined that you are something, you define yourself as only something, and you only choose to mix with, birds of a feather flock together. You only want to be a part of a tribe that looks like you and behaves like you and thinks like you. Then there's going to be conflict with the next tribe over, because again, you're all just going to believe that yours is the only way to live. It's how religion sort of evolves, doesn't it? It's just it's not enough for people to sort of just be happily worshipping the sun gods in the field. Some other buggers got to come in and say, no, let me show you about my god, and if you disagree, I shall kill you.
Well, that's the problem. The problem is not letting other people have their beliefs, but a lot of the religions have very good points in them, and I think they're all pointing to the same direction. And it's something of another world or another energy or another life form after this, reincarnation or something.
Something, and they say you've got to completely give up the ego to reach
that
level of ascendancy.
It's hard to do though, because it's so ingrained into us from school and media and everything.
I think when I think of the complete loss of ego, I think about a guy I met in a massage parlour.
All right.
Okay, so this guy was an absolutely gorgeous fellow, and he booked me for the lingerie massage.
Can I just say one thing before I keep going? That was a massive truck that went.
It was a massive truck. It was
us.
A road train.
Yeah, very noisy.
Very noisy. This lovely guy. He booked me for the lingerie massage, but he didn't really want the massage. He just wanted to chat. So we sat and chatted, and he was Maori from New Zealand, and he was a fly-in, fly-out miner. He worked in the mines. And he was able-bodied and fit and healthy, and he was very grateful for being fit and healthy, because a few years earlier he had fallen from a bridge. And he said he and his mate were doing this silly, boys challenging each other, doing chin-ups off the lower strut of the bridge over a big drop, a huge drop over a rocky river. And he lost his strength in his arms, and he slipped through his mate's grasp onto the riverbed very many metres below, and he broke his back. And he was a shattered man, but he lived. But he said, you become very humble when you can't walk and have nurses wipe your ass for you, and you just have to start from scratch like a baby all over again. So I think that's the complete loss of ego. He was a really lovely gentleman.
Sounds like a great fella.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, it was great, and it was a great, interesting story. It was one of those things where I'm so that story will live, and that fellow will sort of live in my memory forever, because it was such a sort of outstanding moment.
There's this fella in the wrestling. His name is the Iron Sheik.
Yep.
And I think he's from Iran, but I'm not fully sure. But he used to always say, "I'll break his back and make him humble."
Oh, there
That's
you
what
go.
he always would say. And
Yeah.
he said in an interview, he gets interviewed by some American guy, and he goes, "The Iron Sheik, you fought over here in the Pontiac Stadium." And then the Iron Sheik is just like, "Ugh, thank you very much for this wonderful, wonderful question." And then he keeps on about breaking some lad's back and making him humble.
There you go.
And he was a bit too into it. He kept on about breaking his back. So that must be like a theme.
Must be, I guess. Well, it's very... If someone's spineless, I suppose it's a metaphor for life, isn't it? To break someone's back is to, break someone literally in spirit and body. But yeah. The ego has to shift, I guess. I mean, they say, Trump is an egomaniac, and that's because he sees himself as one way, and he can't handle being told any different. Like, it doesn't matter how many people are going to stand there and shriek that the emperor has no clothes. This emperor is not going to believe it, and he's going to shoot the people telling them. Do you know what I mean? He just can't handle it. His perception of self is so intense.
Trump is the pinnacle of human division, I think.
Yeah, he is. He's the shadow self of humanity, but he's all ego. He's nothing else. He's literally.
But the thing is, if you think about it, if he's, because depending on what town you go to, anywhere in the world, they might either hate Trump or they might love Trump. So in that sense, it's almost like, how come there's such a... Could be wrong. Would it be 50-50 in the world? Trump likes and Trump dislikes?
Well, in the world, or
just say for all, like, just say like over the media across the world.
Well, you see, alarmingly, the people that like him tend to be in China and Russia, which is never a good sign, is it?
I don't know because
I mean literally, people in China have started calling their babies Trump. Yeah.
Oh Christ!
And they've reopened asbestos mines in Russia, and they're pumping out like sheets of asbestos, and it's branded Trump, and it's got Trump's bloody face stamped on it. It's like...
Is that like a little gag that Putin was doing, do you reckon?
Probably, yeah. I'd say he's got a wicked sense of humour, has old Vlad. When he came out to the G7 summit in Australia, he brought a lot of very nasty nuclear submarines offshore as well. And when he was sort of questioned by the Australian government as to why and by the press, as to why there were all these very nasty submarines offshore when he was in Australia, he said that they were doing climate change science experiments, which was a direct dig at Tony Abbott, who was the Australian host of the G7, who kept denying climate change. He was a climate change skeptic, so Vlad...
So you reckon Putin's dodgy?
Well, he's not, and he's dodgy, but he's got a wicked sense of humour as well as being, like, evil.
Who has been more dodgy, himself, or Trump, or the North Korean leader?
Well, they're all dodgy in their own way, aren't they? I mean, the North Korean...
They kind of all look like final characters in a Street Fighter.
They do that too.
Mortal Kombat, actually.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, like, if we're all living in a simulation, I mean... It's ridiculous. They cartoon like these villains. I mean, the North Korean leader literally had, like, his uncle, like, torn to pieces by dogs.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
And yet he loves Dennis Rodman.
Well, and Dennis Rodman loves
North
Korea.
He loves. But why does he love American culture? Like, he loves basketball. He loves... But he hates Trump. I think, does he?
Well, he doesn't... He thinks Trump's a fool and easily manipulated. He got Trump to go all the way over to, like, North Korea to sign this, like, farce of a peace agreement, and North Korea hasn't kept... They've delivered nothing, but they gave North Korea this huge photo op and legitimised him, like the American and all of the American allies' strategy is to basically, not show deference to North Korea so as not to legitimize their regime because of all the nukes and all that. So Trump just, like, literally went over there and just shook hands with him and, like, walked around with him and said he was a great fellow. Got nothing from him, looked like an idiot. Probably gave away state secrets because he can't keep his big gob shut.
You have to admit, though, that Dennis Rodman's a legend. Like, I mean, did you ever see the documentary, I think it's called The Last Dance with Michael Jordan?
I have not.
Very good. And Dennis Rodman's in it, and he's just crazy.
He dated Madonna for a while.
Madonna, yeah. Carmen Electra. He was over in North Korea. He was fairly wild on the court.
So you have to ask why he would want to go to North Korea. It's like, why does Steven Seagal now a Russian?
Maybe they connect with them in some way, and then maybe they want to make the world better, and they think, I can show a peaceful side of...
Do you think so? But
I don't know. Like, I mean, when I see the pictures of Dennis Rodman hanging out with the North Korean leader, I think, geez, they look like they're good friends. I hope they're not doing anything dodgy, but they look like they're watching basketball. And maybe there's more to it, but it's hard to know.
Well, it just makes you question why you'd have to go all the way to North Korea to do it.
I suppose they're probably showing an American on camera going to North Korea.
Yeah.
Maybe Dennis Rodman doesn't like Trump. I don't know. But then again, Trump is now friends with the guy too, no?
It waxes and wanes. Trump is not very consistent on anything. Everything he does is just to distract from the current disaster. It's we came out over the weekend that the new White House policy is to tell the American public to learn to live with COVID.
The herd mentality, is it?
Yep, just learn to live with it. It's 135,000 dead now.
Oh.
And they're not doing anything about it.
It's a tricky
so
time.
It says all up to the states, and so it's all the states that opened up and said, you're trampling on my rights to go to a bar, and now they're all dying, so they're shutting the bars again.
Well, I hope they find the cures for that coronavirus soon.
I hope so. So they say a vaccine by the end of next year. So
I never
it's
realised
a
that.
long way away.
For some reason I thought when there's a disease, you can find something for it straight away. But I never realised it takes so long. But it's obviously lots of chemical equations and stuff, no?
Yeah. Well, it's because it's a novel virus. It's literally, this virus has never existed before. So nothing that we've got that we know can fix it until we experiment and run all the different things. So hydrochloroquine, or whatever Trump is currently flogging, does not work.
No.
But they did. There was something else on the weekend they found in America that a steroid or something that's been helping. So, so the death rate is becoming less. So they're finding better ways to fight it, and they're getting closer to a vaccine. But in the meantime, just no need to go shifting everyone.
And on that note, I'm going to have to roll because I haven't really had my breakfast yet. I'm starving. I apologise, but...
and you're going to risk COVID to get a bit of...
I was trying to do a bit of intermittent fasting.
Cheese sausage.
I'm going to go in there now to get some hash browns. Made of potatoes.
I'm hungry now. I'm going to stop for coffee and sandwich on the way back, and I'll probably risk the COVID for it. No. I have my mask, etc.
We might even do another one this weekend if you're free. And we can...
absolutely.
Because I wanted to answer the questions that were sent in as well.
Okay. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Maybe we'll extend it a 2-part episode. This is part 1. We'll see you soon for part 2.
So, g'day again, Mr. Colgan.
Yeah,
so this is sort of the trilogy episode.
This is the 3rd part of a series where we were interrupted by a man.
We were interrupted by a man.
Because we were pulled in looking at the turbines.
We were looking at the wind turbines, which were a magnificent sight, I have to say. And we were rudely interrupted.
Well, they're cautious about them, and they have to be, because you don't know who's going to try and get in there and steal the turbines.
I know.
And put them at the back of their own house, so they've got all their own wind power.
It's because they're pocket size, these turbines. They're only I
heard that Louis Walsh has a turbine outside the back of his gaff. He gets all the power into Mayo.
It's true that Louis Walsh has all the power in Kilchamar anyway.
Indeed. I actually worked in a hotel outside Kilchamar before. His brother came in. Louis Walsh's brother came in.
Yeah.
And he's the absolute spit of Louis. And I thought it was Louis. I gave him a drink. I think it was like a My Waddy or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, that's on the house, Louis. And he goes, what? And then I just walked away because I was like, fuck, did I? And he looked kind of different than Louis when he said that. And I asked somebody else, they go, no, that's a different lad called Dave.
There you go.
So that kind of backfired. But, I mean, you got a My Waddy for free.
He did get him a waddy for free. I'm sure he was flattered to be mistaken for his famous brother. I'm sure it happens all the time. And now that means that, there's not many degrees of separation between you, Louis Walsh, and all that sort of thing.
Do you reckon they'll ever get back together?
Don't they do that all the time? Don't they constantly have are they one of those boy bands I've never, I honestly don't do boy bands. I wouldn't know one from another, whether it was back in the 90s or the K-pop. It's just something I've never done.
K-pop
Not
is
even the monkeys.
They weren't bad, actually. K-pop is the latest kind of trend now, isn't it? Korean pop.
Yes. I mean, they've been around, I guess
But it's the
probably
most
like
famous
10
now, I say, no?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't know, one of my kids was into K-pop about 10 years ago, but now it seems to be becoming really mainstream.
Mm.
You know?
When I was young, line dancing was all in the rage.
Line dancing.
And now I see this kind of K-pop dancing, I'm like, fucking hell. Very
Line
different.
dancing, what's that line? There's two things you should never do in life, is like line dancing and incest.
Right. Because both hurt the family. Both ruin the family reputation.
But line dancing is a big thing in Mayo.
It is, yeah.
It is, everyone gets it.
Well, because it's like jiving, and people like to be out and about and kind of moving because you get the blood flowing. And it's more so like you're getting to hold somebody else, and it's a bit of a cozy time between two people.
I was about to say, what do you mean hold? I was going to say it's good for social distancing. How do you hold people in line dancing? Isn't line dancing just literally we all stand in the line, like, separate from each other with your
up to 12
thumbs hooked in your jeans doing kicky things in boots?
Yeah, that's up to 12 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
And then when the clock ticks 12...
It's no longer line dancing, it's just snogging and
hardcore pumping in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Twists and turns that you'd never expect. There's a bit of Michael Jackson in there. Moonwalk kind of style.
I've been depriving myself of line dancing all these years in Mayo, had I known, and now it's all over because of social distancing. I know. Then I'll never get that time back that I could have spent out, grooving to Michael Jackson at the Big Red Barn.
How do you feel dancing to Michael Jackson these days? Because when a song of his comes on, you're kind of like, oh yeah, there we go. That's fucking he's beautiful. And then you have to turn off.
Well, the thing is, for a while I was just like, I was astonished when radio stations just continued to play his music. I'm like, did they not get the memo about the child torture porn that is documented as being recovered from his house upon his demise? And then I thought about it and I thought, you know what, the fucker's dead. He is dead. Like, there is no point in cancelling all of his art so that, just like we know the allegations, whether they're true or not, nothing can be done about it now. There's no point cancelling everything that every man has ever done.
Nobody's going to give up Billie Jean. Nobody's going to give up Billie Jean.
That's my favourite too.
At Halloween, and Billie Jean is playing, you just can't help yourself.
You mean Thriller?
Thriller, yeah.
But Billie Jean is my favourite. There you go. It's because we're experiencing telepathy and we're getting our wires crossed.
I gotcha. Well, I mean, both songs are good.
Both songs are good.
Both songs equally fit into Halloween, but
we're on the same album, but yes. I still remember being like 13 and like sitting in the dark with my best friend at her house, and she had like really good stereo, listening to like Thriller on vinyl and hearing the footsteps at the beginning like walk across the room from one speaker to the other in stereo. Like, to me, that was high tech. It was like thrilling. It was surround sound.
I only got into Michael Jackson towards the end of his career when he was kind of wearing hats over his face and his nose was getting very pointy.
Yes.
And then he was kind of fucked in because the whole Pepsi thing, when he burnt his head.
Yes, the poor man. He was never quite right after that.
Yeah, and then there was a time where he hung his baby out the window, and then another time where he went over to visit Uri Geller. I think it could have been Fulham or Reading or somewhere like that. And he was on the top of a fucking double-decker bus. And then he went into a shop. I think it was Harold's, or that place in London. You know, that kind of...
Harrods, yeah.
Harrods, yeah.
Yep.
He went in there anyways, and he went, "Can I get one of those? I get 2 of those. Oh, give me 3. Can we get 3 of those?" And he was just pointing at stuff saying, "Yes, we got that." So some guy following him with a clipboard, taking note of everything he said. He's like, "Now, Michael, we've already got 2 of those in the kitchen. You want another 2? "Oh, no, it's okay. We've only got 2. Give me one more. One more." And then he'd do the moonwalk down the stairs. The music would kick in, and then he'd start grabbing his crotch, and then you wouldn't know what had happened.
He was a freaky sort of fellow, but he had an awful upbringing.
His father was a bollocks.
Father was a bollocks. He was just, yes. I mean, he had to rehearse 5 hours a day with his siblings, whether he liked it or not. And then he was constantly being dragged around on tour from when he was a little kid. And his father sort of like paid strippers to take his virginity and make him a man when he was like barely prepubescent. It really, it had an effect. And then he just had, when you got that much money, people just don't question you. People just kiss your ass.
That was dodgy, though.
It was dodgy.
Very dodgy. Like, that was very unfair to his son as well. But Like, if you've seen how good Michael Jackson was when he was singing ABC,
Yeah,
and he was only like 12 or 13.
Yeah, just a kid.
It was unbelievable. He was dancing and he was singing at the same time.
Yeah, it was very clever genius and with a lot of bad problems. But then, that's the thing. We keep giving a man with problems license to offend rather than make him take responsibility and address his problems. If Bill Cosby had thought to himself early, if he'd been able to confront his demons early on and go to a psychologist and say, I have this dreadful urge to drug women because I fantasize about having sex with them while they're passed out. He could have had therapy, but instead, what did he do? He had so much money and so much fame, he could get away with it. He just indulged himself, and fuck me if he didn't drug people and rape them while they're unconscious for decades. It was he could have just gone and got help. But we've got such a stigma about it, and if you've got money, people just won't question you.
Is Bill Cosby in prison now?
I think he was in brief. I think he might have been one of the ones that's been released over COVID.
Okay,
because it's yeah.
I got you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah.
It's a weird world out there, isn't it?
It's a weird world. I feel sorry for him. It's awful that he had such a dreadful downfall. I'm not excusing any of the horrors he committed. But, the man must have some deep-seated psychological problems to behave like that to start with, and then not be able to, recognise that he even did it. It's a complete megalomaniac. Notice it was mainly white women or really, really light-skinned women that he fended against, so perhaps, who knows?
I'd say overall, from all accounts, he sounds like a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah, but such a clever man. I adored him. He's one of the first African-American men I would have ever, seen through television, through Sesame Street and that sort of thing. I read the Fat Albert comics when I was a kid. When I was, a teenager, I watched The Cosby Show, and I was a little wannabe starlet. I would have gone into his hotel room to read a script for Mr. Cosby without even thinking twice. It would never have occurred to me that, a guy, I'd seen on television since I was a small girl and with such a reputation to lose would do anything as heinous as the crimes he's been found to have committed. So and then people would have said, well, what were you doing in his hotel room? And I would have said to read a script, and they would have said, well, obviously you thought you were going to get something for nothing. So, and if I'd told anyone.
Crazy. It's kind of scary to think that people are like that out there, but
well,
I think the vast majority of people are good people.
The vast majority of people are good people, and not everyone's willing to exploit everyone. And for every guy that takes advantage of fans, and for every weird stalker fan that goes berserk, like that man who was obsessed with Jodie Foster and took a pot shot at Ronald Reagan, there's just ordinary people who just take an interest in in people's art and just follow them just because they want to support them, and it strikes a chord, and which is why, how many followers have you got on Instagram? Something mental,
I don't know. I haven't checked it in a while, but I don't know. Does that even matter?
Well, it kind of, if it does, if you're a comedian, actor, and you want people to it's I was thinking about the COVID has changed everything, so that now people are. In America, some comics are doing stand-up in drive-ins.
Yeah.
But you already have to be established to do that, because no one is going to drive up to a drive-in in the rain and Ireland on spec to see if someone might be funny. That's not going to be a good night.
I was reading about that somewhere. And they tune in the car radio to what's happening on the stage.
Yeah.
And then they beep their horn and flash the lights if they like the jokes and stuff like that.
Yes.
That might be the new world of stand-up comedy, because they reckon 80% of comedy clubs are not going to open up.
Well, they can't. I mean, Ireland's smallest comedy club in Galway. If you social distance and that, you'd have one person standing and you have three people standing in each corner of the room and one person on stage. It just can't be done.
Is it an issue that in stand-up comedy people are so close?
I think so. Particularly in Ireland, because the Riff Raff Club, that's a great little club, but that's in a tiny basement with everyone squished in.
And the whole beauty of that place is it's kind of like you're downstairs hiding, telling each other secrets.
Yes, it's I love intimate venues. I don't give a bugger if I never work a big hall or anything, really. I like just hanging out with 50 people, like,
I think
bouncing off the energy.
Comedy's more suited to about 50 people, I'd say, maximum.
I think so.
Because everyone's kind of looking at each other and they're all like kind of involved. You can see everyone's expression. It's almost like you'd love, you know what would be nice to do? Have a group of 50 people in a circle and you're in the middle telling stories and you're kind of walking through everyone. And you're shaking hands with people and you're just going, how are you getting on? And you're sort of mingling with people, asking them how their week was. And you're kind of bouncing off different people who've got different information. And then at the end, you just all have sex.
Why does it always end with sex with you?
Because that's the rebirth of life.
Well, I suppose it does. I was about to say that stand-up in the round, it could be done. And then, like, you just threw me with your whole orgy at the end.
That's just a little token gesture for everyone to be having spent such close time together.
Yes. What was that?
You know what? There's a little treat at the end of it.
What was that saying? It was like...
Once bitten, twice shy?
Well, no, the awkward thing about an orgy is at the end you don't know who to say thank you to.
Yeah, I suppose that's true, actually,
Yeah.
I guess the best thing to do is get out of there.
But yes, I saw someone else who's... an interview with someone else who'd been to an orgy. She said it was dreadful because she couldn't relax because she spent the whole time with one eye on her clothes.
On her clothes?
On her clothes, like, fold up in the corner. Just
I got you.
Yeah.
Why do people steal clothes from those things, no?
Well, I suppose if it was like a spontaneous sort of thing. Other, I mean, proper venues have locker rooms, that sort of thing, I would suppose.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose that if it was somewhere like Sweden, you'd imagine that they'd have lockers, you know?
Absolutely.
And they give you a little key code, but you'd have to get chipped.
Chipped?
It's the only way, isn't it? Like, you get a little chip put in the front of your finger.
Oh, they're big on the old...
Yeah.
Yeah, chipping, aren't they, in Sweden?
It's a new thing that's probably going to come in now, is it?
Being chipped?
It might be too conspiratorial, but it seems like it could happen because the convenience of you pressing your car with your finger to turn on, go into the front of your house, paying for a sandwich in town, paying for petrol. That'd be so handy. But at the same time, if they're always following you and know exactly where you are, that's a bit dodge.
Well, it's a bit dodge.
Because what if you just want to hang out on the side of the bypass and just eat ice creams? You get a ring in your hand saying,
I know.
You need to return home because you are a danger to the public.
It'll be the end of dogging, won't it? I was thinking the other day that,
They'll probably have a bit on the side, like, of the chip where it's like 20 minutes you can do whatever you want.
Get in, get out.
It's a get in, get out job. So it'll be drive-by dogging.
Drive-by dogging. I was thinking that it might be the only safe way anyone could actually have an orgy now. Does everyone have to, like, stand around and watch people at it in a car behind glass, the whole COVID thing? It'd be like a it'd be dogging would be taken to the level of like the drive-in orgy. There you go. That's what it used to be.
Drive-in orgy, brilliant.
Drive-in orgies.
How would that work?
Well, I suppose you just have to like a drive-in. You're supposed to put the speakers in and everything so you can get the full surround sound. So you just have to stay. You have to turn up with your own partner in the car. I suppose it'd be more for like exhibitionists and voyeurs. It's just really just caring and sharing within each other's vehicles in public, I guess. For all those frustrated people who would normally go to swingers clubs and all jump into the pool, or the saunas, or jacuzzis, whatever, that sort of thing.
To be honest, I'd say
the
none of them are too bothered now about the coronavirus. I doubt there were masks. If people, because there's people out there who are big into like orgies, and that's what they do. Their self and their wife or their husband.
Yeah, that's their lifestyle.
And it's fair play to them.
Well, whatever, keeps them fit, I suppose.
Yeah, and it keeps them interacting with the community.
Yeah, don't have to worry about rain. It's not like tennis.
Exactly, and you get to know people very quickly.
Very, very quickly.
But it's a funny I want to be doing though, isn't it? It's a funny old career to go for.
It is. I mean, I was like, in that episode of Howdy Bucks, I was wetting myself with like, because that's how it would be.
That's exactly how it would be, yeah.
That's exactly how it would be with like, your local postman and like your nana and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, why else would it be different? Because you know everyone in the town, so, of course, if someone said to me, there's a sex party going on in Swinford and I was single, I'd be like, I might just have a look at that for a half an hour.
Yeah.
The nature of curiosity, but...
Hiya.
We're
just, as per usual, we're recording in the great outdoors and we're being observed by pedestrians.
People walking past and they're kind of looking into the car thinking, what are they up to?
What's that doing? We're just parked out in the broad daylight.
We're probably giving the game away now, but doing the podcast from the car, so if you see us, do you want to join the podcast? If you're out walking, call in for a look. Now, we had a question this week, did we?
We had several questions this week. So, John Smith on YouTube wanted to know several things. Is where do you see yourself in the later half of 2020 and into 2021?
Wow. Deep question there.
Deep question.
Because I don't even think about that too much. But where do I see myself in the last half of this year?
Yeah, I mean, because things are slowly opening up, I guess. But like stand-up comedy is all a bit.
Well, I'd like to be doing the podcast. This podcast, kind of keeping at the podcasts because I enjoy that crack. Maybe studying something.
Okay.
Because sometimes I always feel like, geez, everyone's got a certificate in something. I don't really have any, so I thought it might be a nice little double to have if I had those like just an online course in something.
Oh yeah.
Just to tell people there's my certificate.
I'm sure we'd like that. What is the name of it? Oh, there's the free online learning through like.
Kane, is it? Can.
No, I can't remember. It's based in England, but it's like universities all over. They have some really, really good stuff.
I think that's Can University. Yeah.
Maybe it's
I have what I used to have
or First or something like that. So yeah.
Could be that too. Yeah.
First Learning or something like that. Yeah.
I used to have a certificate in fitness exercise.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah, but I didn't even finish it. I wasn't even a fitness instructor. I was a fitness. It was slightly different to the point where I couldn't instruct anybody on how to get fit, but I was the level before it. I could stand in reception and take people's names and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to be telling people how to get fit. So I didn't finish the course on the finish because I was living in Galway at the time.
Administration.
Yeah, well, that's it, just like answering the calls and stuff like that. But I was living in Galway at the time, and it was always going out to Ormore on the bus. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point where I was like, oh, fuck this shit. And I gave it up altogether. So I'd like to do a course in something, maybe.
There you go.
And I suppose travel a bit inside Ireland anyways.
Yeah.
Beautiful country. Would like to see a bit more Donegal, would like to see a bit more of Wexford, and would like to see a bit more of Cavan. Cavan is a feckin' dark horse because the way some lads go on, it's like, fuck all to be doing in Cavan. But then when you get there...
Have you seen Killashander? It's beautiful.
The lights and the Barrow River going through one of those places there.
Oh, God. I drove overland from, like, here to Dundalk instead of, like, to Dublin and up. But, and the Fenian was spewing because it was like he hates... He can't be arsed with scenery. It's just Ireland to him. But I was like, oh, my God! It was just like the forests and the lakes and the rivers it was just amazing.
But you know what? That's nice when someone finds nature nice because sometimes you get bored of the same bit of nature, and when someone else is excited about it, you're like, oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, and then and just outside Dundalk is the Castle Roche, which is like it's supposed to be one of the most haunted sites in Ireland, and it's this medieval sort of castle ruined. But people think people don't sort of associate Dundalk with sort of like beautiful scenery and divine haunted castles and stuff. Particularly all the headlines lately, Dundalk's sort of getting a better reputation as a wee bit dodgy in places, but it's just this amazing natural countryside with history, of course. It goes back as long as anyone else in Ireland. People forget that.
Anytime I've been in Dundalk, I've had a great time. It's very, very lively.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of good bars there where, like, you'd be out till fucking all hours.
Yeah. Well, I did a gig there with $3 left, and it was an intimate venue, but it was awesome. And the landlord was wonderful, looked after us till the wee hours, and put us all in cabs and got us safely home.
Lovely.
Yeah, couldn't wait to go back. And then everything shut down.
I'll tell you one thing. I'd be happy now when these pubs open up again. But it seems like is someone saying there was a spike, or like there's a lot of people coming in from certain countries that have the coronavirus. And there was a lad that came in, I think he was over visiting someone in Iran. I think he was from Sligo. Oh,
really? I hadn't heard about that.
That's what the neighbour told me.
Because there's Americans just wandering out. Like, Americans are meant to be shut down from flying into EU. But apparently there's loads of Americans just wandering around, including some from fucking Texas. And Texas has got the biggest death rate currently at the moment in all of US. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if you rich Texans have thought, well, you know what? The EU has, like, bent the curve, we've got a better chance of survival in Ireland. They don't care who they might infect over here. Like, so bailing on Texas.
Yeah.
It's just like we really don't need, like, they're just not handling the coronavirus in the States at all. And I can't believe that anyone from America would be allowed into the EU at this point.
You'd never know. You'd never know what they're doing behind the scenes there.
I know.
But I'd like the pubs to open up again.
Well, yes.
Not just the pubs, but the restaurants and shops and everything.
I know. Well, now is the ideal time, I guess. I mean, I think venues will just change. But, I mean, I know the weather in Ireland is not the same as in Australia, but now is the ideal time to start a smaller venue with a good kitchen and a very large beer garden with just like a Perspex roof over it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but with that whole food thing, is that not going to be a new sort of thing where it's like you need to buy these special ovens now to cook, and then the ovens will be 20 grand, but you can only buy them from the government? Or how does the food make things different?
It shouldn't do. It should only be like the only things that affect COVID are like social distancing. Like it's droplets. It's the more time you spend in the more time you spend exposed to droplets from the infected people. So it's just disinfecting things. So,
but if you're waiting on food, does that not mean you'd be waiting longer in the pub? Because maybe they should have put a limit on the amount of pints you can have, and then just say have 3 pints and then just go.
Well, I think it makes more sense. Well, I mean, they've got like an hour for, like, I went down to Galway. I was very excited. Went down to Galway for the first time in 4 months, and went to a pub. I had an hour and 40 to eat and drink and get out.
Talk about being under the clock.
I know. I was by myself, so it was like, so it was plenty of time. But I had like a lobster roll for $16.50. Thank you very much.
Hope it was worth it.
It was worth it. Because I was thinking, I'm keeping the lights on for the poor buggers who had like 3 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
It was like, oh well,
No, you're right. That was a good gesture.
Yeah, and a G&T, because I hadn't had G&T in a pub for about 5 months or something. And then I had an Irish coffee and a strawberry meringue. Wow. But it was weird because the thing is, but I don't think it makes any sense to have the time limit, because normally people would go to a pub and they'll settle in, You'll settle in for a few hours if you're having the crack with mates. And now if you're only allowed to stay for an hour and a half, you're just going to move on to the next pub. You're just going to have the same person visiting 7 pubs over 7 hours instead of one person in the same pub for 7 hours, infecting the same people who he probably hangs around with during the day anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe it's going to reinvigorate the storytelling idea, because people are going to go from pub to pub, be constantly stimulated by the new places. Okay. So then they'll be like, I was just down there in Tony's. They've got sandwiches for 10 quid. No way, I was up there in Michelle's. She's selling bags of chips for €15. And then, you might be like, did you meet Tommy on the way? He was looking for rollies in the alleyway. And then, people will start sharing stories because everyone's going to be moving.
Exactly.
So maybe
in Kilkelly they call it doing the stations of the cross.
Oh yeah.
Moving from.
What was the story of the Stations of the Cross again? I should know that, but I don't.
Station of the Cross is the myth that the Roman Catholic Church made up about all the different stops that Jesus Christ was meant to have made on the way to being crucified. So so when they made up the story about the woman who wiped his face with the cloth and it became the Shroud of Turin, and now she's a Saint Veronica. Well, the name Veronica just comes from the Latin for Vera Iconis, so it just means true icon. They just made it up. They made up the woman, they made up the story, and they made up her sainthood.
And you said do you mean the Romans?
But I've got the playing card. Well, yeah, because the Romans took charge of the Catholic Church because they were incorporating. They were just making up stories to keep all the pagans interested and convert them to the new religion to keep them calm.
Do you think that before the Romans got involved with Christianity, that it was a good religion, or do you reckon it was better, or do you reckon it got better?
Well, the Romans were there at the beginning because, of course, they're the ones who decided to.
Maybe I got it wrong.
According to the myth and legend, it was the Romans who decided to nail him up.
Oh, I get that, but I thought the Romans then sort of imagined Christianity, and then they added their twists and turns to it, and then they kind of.
Well, yes, they just noticed that a cult was taking off, a splinter a Jewish splinter thing was taking off. So they just incorporated it into a lot of all the other pagan traditions and Roman mythology and that sort of thing just to sort of like, as a propaganda. It's propaganda. It's just like tell the people like a news or story, and they'll believe anything, and then they'll just adapt their life to it. That's why like it is like my kid. It was so funny. She said like, and it seems like 20 years ago now because of COVID sucking up our life. It was like in January, she said, I love how it's like Halloween and then Christmas and then like Easter nearly straight after. I'm like, yes, it's almost like all the religious events occur around the changes of the seasons, like they always did for millennia before the Christians invaded and started taking over pagan traditions.
It's a bit like the Guinness Day, when they had the Guinness Day in Ireland, and it was like, we're going to have a new day for Arthur Guinness. All right, yay! And everyone just had a great time for like 2 or 3 years in a row. Just like a new made-up day to celebrate Guinness.
Exactly. It's like Secretary's Day. It's just made up by people who sell flowers.
Well, some of that commercial stuff is just to keep the conveyor belt moving.
It is. It's like Valentine's Day. And Valentine's Day, when I was a kid, it was only ever in Charlie Brown comics. No one ever celebrated it in Australia.
All right.
And then when I was like late teens, all of a sudden the cards started appearing in the stores and people just started thinking, oh, Valentine's Day, like they do in America. And they just started buying. And now it's just like if you don't get your wife a feckin' Valentine's Day, your present, you're screwed. And people get engaged on Valentine's Day and they have their weddings on Valentine's Day. They never gave a bugger before, late 80s when they just started, Hallmark just started cashing in on the market.
It's like Halloween with the way I think it was the Irish that started the Halloween in I think it was America. It used to be a turnip, and then Americans said, we'll use a pumpkin because it's softer.
Oh, okay.
And then
for
they
the
sort of...
jack-o'-lanterns and then...
Then they made it kind of like commercial, I suppose.
I love Halloween in Ireland, but they never used... Again, Halloween used to never be celebrated in Australia, and then it just became like, the Americanization of the movies and stuff. It just became like a gimmick for selling things. Just started appearing in the shops, and the people said, oh, that might be fun. And now it's a thing. And then everyone has Halloween parties, and it's just an excuse to dress up and party, but that's all anything ever is anyway. When it comes
to... why not?
Yeah, exactly. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
The thing about holidays, I love Christmas, but at the same time it's too cold. But I love summer, but it's too wet. It's almost like if the summer in Ireland was very nice, sunny all the time, it'd be the best place in the world.
Oh, wow.
I suppose everybody says that, but still, I do think Ireland would be the best place in the world.
Oh, well, I treasure your sunny days like diamonds found in a bloody coal mine. It's just like when they occur, they're just spectacular, and you relish them.
Because it's just like you're just in the outside. In the outside. I don't even know how to talk about good days. That's how few I've seen. But like you're just in the field and you're wearing a t-shirt and it's sunny.
Oh,
and
yes.
The countryside looks beautiful and the fields look nice and the cows look nice and the butterflies and everything look nice. And then you're like, I could get used to this. The next day then you're in a pair of fucking oilskins.
Yes, exactly. I was a couple of days ago. I was just like, sitting around at next to nothing in my conservatory, and like because we've had all these puppies, and the timing of the puppies was not planned. So I was expecting to raise puppies in the conservatory, not during summer. So I was terrified they're going to cook, of course, if it gets hot. And thankfully, it has been overcast. But like I'm sitting there, like trying to keep the puppies cool, and then today it's so kind of like wintry that the Fenian was thinking about going buy some more heating oil. Like he says, I'm thinking about buying heating oil on the 12th of July. I know.
There you go. But like the heating oil is kind of handy to have in the background because it just takes the pinch out of the air.
Just in case.
Is there any other questions?
There are some other questions. What were some of the questions? Oh, yes. One of the questions was, how did I get into comedy and why did I want to do a podcast?
Right.
I always wanted to get into comedy, but living in Australia, there weren't many chances to do it. There's only a couple of comedy clubs, and they're mostly in the eastern states, and I didn't live near them for a long time. And I've always written and done theatre and stuff, and it was just...
Is that a dig at me now, is it?
How's it a dig at you, you lunatic?
I'm just joking.
And then I was on the radio in Tasmania, and once I started doing live radio, I thought I would start doing a podcast, but I didn't get around to doing it for various reasons. I wanted to do it with the Fenian, because we used to be on the radio together, but he is like a bit shy. And I want to stream it live, and he doesn't want anyone to look at him. He doesn't mind being on the radio, but he doesn't like appearing live on camera or anything. So I started my podcast when I started doing stand-up over here, and by sheer sheer good fortune, I live in close proximity to you, so our worlds collided, as it were.
Indeed so.
Indeed so. And also, I have an arts degree and a dodgy history working in the sex industry, so I'm unemployable as anything other than a stand-up comic.
You go, girl.
Well, you know, and I have the reckless abandonment of middle age, so you know. Okay, so we also have suggestions for renaming the podcast, since we're now like, it started off as just Finding Island Funny and just doing my little
We're gonna pick the name right now.
Pick the name right now.
Today.
Absolutely. So, the choices were Mama Duck and a Hardy Buck.
Mama Duck and a Hardy Buck. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Buzzduck.
Buzzduck. Sounds like a dinner you'd get.
Yep. Never mind the Buzzducks.
Ooh, that's good.
Yep.
Never mind the Buzzducks.
Never mind the Buzzducks.
Ah, that's the one.
Hang on. And there's a duck and a buck.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, and
Duck and it, maybe.
No,
I think you kind of hit me with for hit whatever that saying is. Hit me for 10 with that one. Never mind the Buzzducks, was it?
Never mind the Buzzducks.
Never mind the Buzzducks.
I think that might be a co-collaboration between.
Never mind the Buzzcocks.
Sarah. But never mind the Buzzcocks. But I think Sarah Snake suggested.
Sarah Snake.
Yeah, Sarah Snake. She's a sweetheart. She lives in Canada. Thank you for listening, Sarah.
How are you, Sarah Snake?
How are you, Sarah? She's a staple of the Viper stream community.
I have no doubt. With a name like that.
Exactly, Sarah Snake. Yep. And I think she suggested Buzzduck, and I made a joke about never mind the Buzzducks. So I think is that where we're going? Never mind the Buzzducks.
So you two guys behind my back
No,
came up with a name
No,
without
that
me.
was just like when I was asking the Discord crew for suggestions and saying we're going to think.
Let's go with that name. That's a good name.
Yeah, never mind the Buzzducks. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then you know what? We'll give it a bit of a test period, right?
Okay.
We'll give it 4 weeks, and if people are like, "What kind of name is that for a show?" We'll step away from the name and we'll reinvigorate ourselves.
Okay, reinvent ourselves again. We'll
like
just
the
like
Dad's
Madonna.
Challenge. Yeah, but we'll give it a good month. So
Okay.
from now on, officially for a month, we're called Never Mind the Buzzducks.
Never mind the Buzzducks. But our email is still findingislandfunny@gmail.com for the time being. And
Yeah,
then, and then we'll go and then we'll get everything official.
We'll
get a
We're going to
letterhead.
have to get a new email as well.
We're going to have to get an email. We're going to have to get a producer. We're going to have to get our own Jamie to do the quick research in the booth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that actually. Get a Jamie on board. Maybe we can get Jamie himself.
Well, I'm sure we can offer him more than Joe Rogan can with his 100 million to Spotify. What do you reckon Jamie's on?
Jamie's on the dole. He doesn't even get paid. He's on the stamps. Joe said, I think it's for your best I don't pay you.
Yeah.
And you know Joe...
Jamie's running the longest internship in radio in history.
He only got FETAC level 5 like myself. So I think he couldn't step up to the plate. But I don't know...
No safe pass for Jamie. He's working cash.
Joe gives him 50 quid cash a month into the back pocket, and he makes sure that he puts it in the back pocket.
Yeah, and all the weed he can handle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the name.
There we go. Never mind the Buzzducks.
We'll chat to you soon, so...
Absolutely. I think we've covered all the ground we have to cover.
Jobless.
Jobless. See you when you got nothing on. Thank you everyone for listening.
Cheers. Good luck.